Yeah, there were a lot of odd coincidences. The games that Nintendo started making after Shapeshift Shawn came out, I'm pretty sure that everybody at Nintendo played this and was insanely jealous of my game design prowess. Specifically, what's it called? Donkey Kong Bonanza, the new one that's coming out. There's a mechanic where Donkey Kong can pound his way through the ground and through walls and stuff and sort of force a path into the level that was not there to begin with. Yeah, that was my idea. Not on this level, but later when you get the strongman ability, you can punch your way directly through platforms. Yeah, I'm not at all bitter because we got rejected by Nintendo when did we pitch Shapeshift Shawn to Nintendo? Yeah, I think. Yeah, they've rejected pretty much every idea we've sent them, so, but I'm not bitter. Say so. I wanted to do a platformer. I wanted to do my own twist on platforming, and so I was trying to think of all the different odd, inventive mechanics that you could put into a game. And more so than that, I mean, the mechanics and the gameplay was definitely important to me, but I think the biggest thing I wanted to do with this was to just evoke a certain kind of feeling with this game. I grew up on Donkey Kong Country. That was one of the most foundational games for me as a young kid. And so, I kind of grew up in that era when 3D pre-rendered art for video games was first becoming prominent. Games like Heart of Darkness and Oddworld and stuff like that. I really liked that style as a kid. And so I wanted to do a game that looked kind of retro 3D. So that was, so the, odd mechanics, retro 3D kind of graphics. I also wanted to emulate the shareware model that a lot of the early id Software games used, where they would release the first episode for free, and then the episodes 2 and 3 would be something that you would pay for. But by the time I finished episode 1, I had kind of abandoned that approach, and I was like, no, I put a ton of work into this. People are going to pay money for episode 1. And episode 2 and 3 are still not finished, so that's the other thing that's going on. So the part of it was finishing MonCon. I had every intention of completing the trilogy before I got back to MonCon, but I mean, this is kind of off topic for Shapeshift Shawn, but we got contacted by a publisher that was interested in MonCon and wanted us to finish MonCon as soon as possible. And so I thought, okay, well, I better put Shapeshift Shawn on the shelf and concentrate on MonCon. That was a few years ago, and so I've kind of been trying to get Shapeshift Shawn back off the ground since then. MonCon kind of took over, and then there were, other things that would come up along the way that it just seems like stuff keeps getting in the way. But no, I have every intention of finishing this. It's just been hard to clear my calendar with other stuff going on.
Which character is your favorite to make levels for?
Oh, to make levels for? Probably the slime guy. I think... So I don't have him in front of me, but the slime character can walk on the walls and on the ceilings, and I think that lent itself to the most interesting kinds of level designs. The one I hated the most was the strongman, because he... levels were not really designed to be destroyed, and so you kind of have to... There's a lot more you have to think about if you go into it saying, okay, well, I'm designing this level, but every part of it can potentially be destroyed. So it actually, it's very limiting in a way if you think like that. So he was definitely the most difficult to design reasonable kind of levels for. On the flip side, I think that the strongman character probably has the most power trip kind of aspect to it. So even though they weren't fun levels to design, I think that they're the most satisfying to play as a player. So I would maybe lean into that one if I were to try to get someone excited about this. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like I think each of the 4 characters you can transform into are all pretty different from each other. So I think it just is kind of whatever tickles your fancy for what... I would definitely lean into the power trip aspect of it, though. Like, oh, you can, breathe fire and blow through a whole line of enemies, or you can pound straight through the floor, or whatever. So yeah, I guess I would sell it as a power trip game. This was kind of the project that kept me sane during COVID lockdowns. I was just at home with nothing to do and would be working on this to, kind of distract myself from the fact that I couldn't leave and couldn't see any of my friends. It was around the same time that I was kind of getting bored with MonCon and needed a break, so it kind of helped me to take a mental break from MonCon to be working on this. But yeah, I got really excited about just doing all of the 3D art. All this was done in Blender, and so it gave me a lot of opportunities to practice with Blender as well. I think I got second place at CSGC for this, for the indie games category.
Did you lose that at BoogieBot?
No, I lost to myself to MonCon.
Oh, okay. So I knew BoogieBot was up for you, that's why.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember what year BoogieBot won, but... yeah, this is the ability I'm talking about. So, I think it's a fun power trip to just pound through the levels, but as a level designer, it just creates a lot of interesting problems that you don't normally think about. Yeah, I won second place at CSGC, and then I think I won a couple of awards at the Nescatonga Arts Festival for this. I thought of one. One year when I was showing this at conventions, I had this displaying on a CRT just to kind of lend itself to the whole 90s retro pre-rendered 3D look that I was going for. I had it actually displayed on a CRT that people could play it on, and I had a Super Nintendo gamepad controller that people could play it with. And just to complete the look that I was going for, I got a junker Super Nintendo cartridge and put a Shapeshift Shawn label on it, plugged it into an old Super Nintendo, and set it on top of the TV. Pretty much everybody that came to the booth that year thought it was real, and they thought it was actually running on a Super Nintendo. The questions they asked me the most was like, how on earth did you get this running on a Super Nintendo? So they completely bought the setup that I had there. Nobody questioned it. Usually I have a lot of it already kind of mapped out in my head before I start. I don't really start with a mechanic and then see if it turns into a full game. I usually start with an idea that I'm interested in, or like a look that I'm going for, and then I try to build the game around that. Yeah, and so like I said, I had this itch to do something that evoked a lot of 90s nostalgia, but it was kind of a specific 90s nostalgia. I didn't want to do a pixel art game because I feel like there's already enough regular pixel art games out there. Yeah, I think there was a little bit of a tentative period where I had specific ideas for what I wanted each of the abilities to be, and there was a very, very early build of Shapeshift Shawn where it's just one test level where I'm testing out each of the mechanics and just making sure that they feel fun. I guess there could have been an alternate universe where all four of the ideas that I had fell flat on their faces, and I just put the game on the shelf. I was like, this is no fun. I'm not going to do this. But no, I mean it got off the ground pretty quickly after I got the mechanics working. And like I said, I had nothing to do during the COVID lockdown, so I had plenty of time to do 3D modeling for each of these characters and to design these ridiculously detailed backgrounds and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah.
Or not. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was just like the level timer counter was just running up infinitely. I don't know what happened. I've never seen it do that before. But let me do do you have enough time to show this, just so we have a little bit of the slime guy? If we're running out of time, I can stop here, but I just wanted to get a little bit of this. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think the slime guy. This was the hardest to figure out how to program, but I think once I got it working. Oh, what was that? Oh, okay. I can stop here. Right?
No, you still got this one.
Okay. This was the hardest one to get the programming figured out for, but I think once I had it all ironed out and working, this one lent itself to the most fun level designs. The aiming mechanics were partially inspired by Yoshi's Island with the egg shooting. That was where I copied a couple of the mechanics from. I also realized as I was testing this that you can't react fast enough to jump in the air and aim and then attach yourself to the slime. So I did this like matrix bullet time thing. So as soon as you start aiming, things slow down. So you have more time to decide where you're gonna aim to if you're trying to stick to a surface and jump and aim it all at the same time. Yeah, I was also really interested in coming up with stuff that the abilities could do that were not explicitly told to you in tutorials, that you just kind of figured out on your own, like things that make intuitive sense, like, oh, I can shoot slime at the enemies and it will slow them down. I don't know that you're ever explicitly told that, but I like the idea that you just kind of figure stuff out as you're playing the game rather than being told this is how it all works.